Okay, settle in, because this is a tale that even my grown kids won't believe. Picture this. Me, Brenda, freshly 50-something, divorced, and feeling about as exciting as a Tupperware container left in the fridge too long. My kids, bless their well-meaning hearts, kept saying, "Mom, you need to get out there." So, where did "out there" land me? Jamaica, Mon. Specifically, a resort where the average age seemed to be 30 years younger than my sensible walking shoes. Now, I wasn't expecting to find love. Oh no. My mission was sun, sand, and maybe a few fruity cocktails that would make me forget the mountain of laundry waiting back in Douglasville. I envisioned myself as a sophisticated solo traveler, finally having some me time. What I got was a near-constant battle with humidity that turned my usually manageable hair into something resembling a startled poodle, and the realization that my sensible swimwear was apparently code for invisible to all attractive life forms. The first few days were uneventful. I mastered the art of applying sunscreen solo, a surprisingly acrobatic feat, learned that jerk chicken was not an insult, and perfected my "I'm engrossed in my book but secretly eavesdropping on your honeymoon conversation" face. I even had a brief flirtation with a very enthusiastic iguana who seemed particularly interested in my toes. Romance was clearly in the air, just not with anyone who could actually buy me a drink. Then came reggae night. Now, back home, my idea of a wild night is staying up past 10 p.m. to watch British crime dramas. But in Jamaica? Well, the rhythm got me. I found myself tapping my foot, then swaying a little, and before I knew it, I was attempting moves that would have sent my chiropractor into early retirement. That's when he appeared. Picture a man who looked like he'd been carved from mahogany, with a smile that could melt glaciers and eyes that twinkled like the Caribbean stars. He was leaning against a palm tree, watching my unique interpretation of the electric slide. I braced myself for the polite chuckle, the awkward sidestep. Instead, he strolled over and said, in the most delightful accent, "You have moves, lady." Now, my usual response to such a comment would be a self-deprecating remark about my lack of coordination. But something about the rum punch, okay, maybe 2 rum punches, gave me a sudden surge of confidence. "Oh, these?" I said, striking a pose that I hoped looked more Beyoncé than bewildered. "These are just my warm-up." His name was Winston, and he was a local artist who occasionally hung out at the resort. We talked for hours that night, about everything and nothing. He told me about his art, his island home, and his surprisingly philosophical views on the proper way to peel a mango. I told him about my kids, my slightly disastrous attempts at online dating, and my deep and abiding love for comfortable elastic waistbands. The next few days were a whirlwind of beach walks, shared sunsets, and surprisingly competitive games of dominoes. Apparently, Winston was a serious domino player. He showed me hidden waterfalls, introduced me to the most delicious fruit I'd ever tasted, and even attempted to teach me a little patois, which mostly resulted in me saying things that probably weren't appropriate. Now, I know what you're thinking. Vacation romance. It never lasts. And trust me, that little voice of sensible Brenda in my head was chiming in regularly. But there was something about Winston. He saw past the slightly sunburned nose and the questionable dance moves. He made me laugh, he made me feel alive, and he looked at me in a way that made those 50-something years feel like a badge of honor, not a countdown clock. Of course, the dreaded departure day arrived. There were tearful goodbyes at the airport, promises to stay in touch, and a slightly awkward moment when I tried to explain FaceTime to his flip phone. My kids were surprised, to say the least, when I returned with tales of a Jamaican artist who called me his eerie queen. Did it last forever? Well, that's a story for another time. But what I can tell you is this: that trip to Jamaica wasn't just about sun and sand. It was about a divorced mom, feeling a little dusty around the edges, who rediscovered a spark she thought had gone out. It was about a chance encounter, a shared laugh, and the realization that love doesn't have an expiration date or a dress code. And sometimes, just sometimes, the most unexpected adventures lead you to the most beautiful destinations, even if that destination has a really great domino player. So, yeah, Jamaica? It was definitely eerie. In more ways than one.